So we're standing outside of Mott Street in Chicago. It's honestly one of the best new school restaurants in the city. It comes from chef owner Edward Kim, who had a fine dining background, but opened this pretty approachable restaurant using a ton of like Asian influences, especially Korean. And two of my favorite dishes in the entire city are on this menu. Can you explain this place to me just a little bit to me?
So, American. That's what we consider it, is an American food. But it always sticks to the roots of having like, you know, Asian influence, Asian ingredients. Korean influence in particular, because you know Chef Edward Kim is Korean American, so we bring a lot of that influence here as well.
The two dishes that I love here, the stuffed cabbage, and then you have the Mentaiko kimchi udon.
Yep.
Which is sort of like carbonara-y pasta type thing. So you basically have lasagna and pasta.
It's kind of like East meets West in terms of ingredients and technique. So you'll see like the stuffed cabbage, for instance, mixes in some French technique, like the pork shoulder, the pork butt that we use for it is braised overnight, at least 12 hours. So when we pull it out and we're ready to build this cabbage, it's nice and soft and pulls apart super easily. And we'll layer that thinly with sliced kimchi and the pork butt and some sticky rice. So we have all these nice layers going on. Then we'll weigh it down overnight so all those layers are compact, portion it into nice squares, then we'll sear it so it gets nice and crispy, and use a kimchi broth that has a ton of butter in it. The udon has kind of like a Korean bar food, Japanese bar food thing going on. Like you said, it's almost like carbonara-esque.
Yeah.
Because of the broth, we have a lot of butter in there. We have these noodles that are cooked with some kimchi and some spicy cod roe, the kimchi naj, so the kimchi broth with the butter in it. We top it with some bonito flakes, so it's like the bacon of the sea.
So excited to try this. This thing is just, I mean, it's just a visual feast. I love the colors and the textures, and immediately when you get this, it is like you have to dive in. So I'm gonna go into the Mentaiko udon first. I mean, on the outset, it's just kind of like, okay, this is like Japanese food. I've had this before. This is udon, Mentaiko, which is also, it's pollock roe. You know, it's just tinted a beautiful orangey pink. That's all thanks to the kimchi. Gonna give it a little stir to let the ingredients kind of incorporate, because the bonito flake was on top. Hot damn, that is good. I can honestly say that this is one of the best noodle dishes I have ever had. It is spectacular. I love that each strand of this udon is coated, just absolutely coated with the Mentaiko, and you get aromatics, the chives, the nori. The flavor, the spice, the funk, the slight acidity that comes from the kimchi broth ties it all together. It gives it the sense of like, hey, this is a super comforting Asian pasta. It is kind of like an Asian carbonara. No, except it doesn't really have any cheese in there, which is nice. It's a little bit lighter. The udon is almost like a slightly softer tonarelli, right? So it's more substantial than spaghetti, but not quite like super hefty like another kind of pasta. We got bonito, a little smoky meatiness, a rich creamy base, and then you have kimchi, and that kimchi is just like, it keeps it so addictive. The kimchi broth is definitely not a young kimchi broth. It's very mature, it's aged, it's got this depth and this like kind of like soul-reaching intensity. If you like kimchi, if you understand the flavors of kimchi and Korean food, this is like one of the most craveable, amazing things you will eat. This dish must be finished. And I don't usually finish all the food that I'm tasting, and I'm not gonna leave a bite for any of the crew here. So don't even think about it. Nothing left for you. Not even this will be left for you. Do you want this? You want to try it? Oh, sorry. Nothing left. Next. All right, next we're gonna move on to the stuffed cabbage. It comes in a form that looks nothing like Korean food, except maybe like, you know, you see this broth and you're like, okay, this red tinted broth could remind me of something that's sort of like a Korean soup. And then you have the crispy Korean rice on top, just nudeongji. This burnt rice, this crispy rice, is an essential food category in Korean food. The kimchi is the pasta part of this lasagna. And then the rice is sort of the cheese element, right? You get the same kind of crumbliness that you would get with ricotta, but instead you have chewy glutinous rice. And then you have meat. So instead of like a ragu, you have Korean style roast pork. The kicker here is that instead of tomato sauce, you have this kimchi butter broth that immediately gets soaked up on your first bite. That's legit. I might finish all this too. You get chewy, crisp rice. That's the first thing. And then you go into the roast pork, which is comforting. It's like almost braised and stringy, really tender. You know, kimchi is kind of, it's been compressed, and you get just kind of the stringy remnants of the Napa cabbage. Even in that, it's retained an intensity that kind of naturally just funky, like fermented cabbage. It sets the tone for the whole dish. Like, I want to eat this whole thing and I want to keep eating it, but the kimchi, it lightens it up a little bit, right? You get a little bit of brightness from it, a little bit of crunch. I find that is the reason why this thing is delicious. And then you have, of course, the butter. But I mean, butter makes everything better, but when you put butter with kimchi broth, then you have something that's extremely fat and just like wants to coat your palate, and then it's countered by the funk and the kimchi. If you don't know this, like, good Korean kimchi fried rice is delicious because there's a lot of butter in there. And in fact, like, maybe even though this takes the form of lasagna, I'm kind of thinking of kimchi fried rice when I eat this dish. This really is triumphant. I mean, I can see why these two dishes are the signature dishes at Mott Street. And yet, if you were to say, oh, this is a Korean restaurant, like, no, not really. It's just using kimchi and Korean ingredients in a really interesting, compelling way that feels very appropriate for Chicago. Like, feels very appropriate for the way that Chicagoans want to eat now. This is an infusion of a lot of different ethnicities and a lot of different food cultures on a form and like a format that people can relate to. They are incredibly Korean, but they're incredibly American. They're a perfect picture of Korean American food. You know, I'm gonna finish up with the incredible Mott Street burger, which is supposedly amazing. Thank you so much for watching K-Town. If you wanna see more of my adventures in Chicago, click right here. Oh yeah.